Um, I'm gonna record this so that we can share it later for those who couldn't attend. Before I mute myself and share my screen, are there any questions that anybody has before we get started?
Dallas got removed from the group. I'm not sure why that happened.
As I pressed record, it said her internet was not stable, and so it kicked her out for some reason. I can text her when I start the video and ask her to, feel free to join us again, but I'm not really sure. Yeah? Okay. Did Caleb just leave too?
No, I'm still here. I just turned off the video.
Okay. And Fry, if you don't mind turning off your sound, and then I think
How do I turn off my sound?
I'm sorry?
How do I turn it off?
Oh, so there's like a little button on the bottom that looks like, let me see if I can get.
If you mouse over.
And it's next to the hang up button.
Oh, okay.
Yeah? Oh, did she just hang up? She just hung up. I mean, she just like left the meeting. Boy, this is fun. Thanks everyone for being patient. Okay, I'm ready to present. Oh, she's back. Hi, Fry. Okay, here we go. Remember to type in your questions in the chat.
A senior at the American School of Guadalajara, and I will be sharing my AP capstone research project, which is writing a year-long research paper about any topic of your liking, which I combined with my AP artwork, where I created a portfolio of original art that I have been working on all year long as well. And the central question guiding my work is whether or not art can change teenagers' minds about the climate crisis. So, considering the government and companies around the world tend to use an economic and political approach to deal with climate change, I wanted to see if tackling the environmental crisis through an artistic aspect could be efficient. To be able to begin my work, I investigated work in the body of literature that is already existing that correlated art changing the way humans think, or the effect of it on our behavior. When it comes to the association between color and emotion, I was able to find two main peer-reviewed papers that discussed similar findings. The first one was written by professors Naz Kaya and Helen Epps, where they asked volunteers to identify each color shown with a certain emotion if it made them feel anything. And the second paper was written by Dr. Valdez, who used the PAD, pleasure, arousal, and dominance emotion model to evaluate the effects of saturation, color, and brightness on each volunteer. The results show that colors, brightness, and saturation are highly correlated to human emotion, which provides a deeper connection as to how art can possibly change people's perspective on certain topics and what the effect of art is on humans in general. Another study I found was led at the Art Cop 21 event in Paris, which is an art gallery. And these researchers presented a survey to all of the people that entered the venue, and they asked them which artwork had the most lasting effect on them. And after analyzing all the results, it was deducted that the artworks with the most lasting effects on viewers are the ones that offered solutions to the global issue, or emphasized the beauty and interconnectedness of nature, and inspired hope. Another piece of information that I found was presented by Professor Samir Ziki, where his central question was, what happens in the brain when humans view different paintings? So to be able to do so, volunteers were put in an MRI scanner, which is a scanner that detects brain activity, and they were shown a series of paintings every 10 seconds. And blood flow was measured in one specific part of the brain. And the results of this was that increased blood flow reaching the brain explained heightened emotions of viewers towards these art pieces. So Ziki was able to conclude that if viewers related to the beauty of an artwork, in other terms, if they found it beautiful, the physiological effect on them could influence them to change their minds about the certain topic that was shown in that painting. So in summary, the conclusions from the published literature that I found is that most research available highly correlates color and human emotion. That's the first thing. The second thing is that showing a sense of hope in artwork provokes a stronger reaction from viewers and keeps them thinking for a longer amount of time. And finally, art does cause a neurological reaction depending on how much the viewer relates to the art piece itself. So for my method, I used, for the method I used to conduct my research, I stick to a quantitative research survey in order to evaluate if art could actually affect students' opinion on climate change in ASFG. And the steps I took for the survey method were the following. So the steps that I took to be able to conduct my research were the following. 2 different surveys were sent to the population, 30 minutes apart, and this was done during a mentoring class period. The first survey had 6 questions that asked the willingness of each participant to change micro behavior concerning the environment on a scale from 1 to 10. Micro behavior, what I mean by that is like small things in your day, like taking a shower or eating less meat or things like that. This group was used as a control group for me without including the stimulus material, which was the artworks. So only these 6 questions were sent to see what people think as a control, and I received 79 responses to this specific survey. Then 30 minutes later, I sent the second survey, which first included the 6 questions, then the stimulus material, which were artworks displaying nature sceneries before and after human destruction. And those artworks were followed by the same 6 questions. And I received 56 responses to this one. And the point of doing this was, first I included the 6 questions, and then I included the artworks and then the 6 questions again to see if there was any shift in response due to seeing the 6 artworks. So examples of the survey questions are, how likely are you to take short showers, which are less than 6 minutes? How likely are you to pay attention to which section you're throwing your trash into? Because at school we have separated trash sections. How likely are you to consume meat only once or twice a week? These are 3 examples out of the 6 questions that I did ask. And as I said, in the first survey, they were asked without stimulus material, and in the second one, the artworks were included. So here are examples of the artworks that I included, and this is where my AP artwork comes in, because these are all paintings that I have done during my AP art class. And so the first painting shows dull, neutral, lacking texture and brightness. And then the second one is bright and saturated and rich in texture and in contrast. And the point of this is to show the change that humans have caused, but to also inspire hope. The first one shows like the negative effect of humans, and the second one is maybe something that we can work towards, which inspires hope, as one of the research papers that I found stated I should do. Here is this 2 other art pieces, and here the contrast is shown because in the first one, man-made machinery is shown, while the second one, palm trees and nature is displayed. And here's another one where clearly the human effect is shown because it's a dried up coral reef with a swimmer or like a diver. And then the second one is just a natural display. And so here are my results. Each question was analyzed for statistical difference between the first and second survey by opening the graphs into a spreadsheet. This is what a spreadsheet would look like, where I placed each question next to, like each first survey question and second survey question next to each other. The question asked in this specific one is, how likely are you to consume meat only once or twice a week? And the numbers listed represent the answers of each contestant on a scale from 1 to 10. For the test to be analyzed, I had to use different formulas. The first one was a z-test to be able to compare two populations with different sizes, because as I mentioned, my first population was 79 respondents and my second one was 56. So to be able to technically see a difference between those, I need to use a z-test, which is the complicated thing displayed here. And then I had to use a p-value, which is to analyze whether or not the hypothesis was null or alternative. So to explain that, a null hypothesis means it was refuted, and it means that it was not supported by information or by the data that I found. And an alternative hypothesis means it was supported and approved by the data that I found. So as a reminder, my hypothesis was, if students are influenced by the changing color schemes and the drastic difference shown in the before and after acrylic pieces, then it could inspire them to modify their answers from the first to the second part of the survey. And here are my final results. 3 questions proved hypotheses, which means 3 questions were not supported by my hypotheses. And those 3 questions were, how likely are you to consume meat only once or twice a week? How likely are you to buy and use a metal straw instead of a plastic one when buying a drink? And how likely are you to use a bicycle or a public bus to go to places within close proximity rather than using a car? So what this means is that on a scale from 1 to 10, all my participants did not show a drastic change from the first to the second survey, which means the artworks did not really have an effect on their answer. But interestingly, the remaining 3 questions did show a change, and participants did mention that they would consider doing so more in the second survey. And these questions were, how likely are you to take short showers? How likely are you to attend youth-led political protests such as Fridays for Future, which are held in front of the Guadalajara Congress every Friday? And how likely are you to pay attention to which section you are throwing your trash into? And so I found myself in a confusing situation because 3 of my questions did support my hypothesis and 3 others didn't. But after analyzing my data, I was able to deduct some conclusions that were actually helpful. So for the questions that proved an alternative hypothesis, I used the economic principle of thinking at the margin to deduct more information. And basically, in economic terms, this is the idea that this is the thought that every customer gives to whether or not he would like to add or subtract a single unit of what is being bought. So that is in very technical economic terms, but it also translates to daily life decisions. So in general, marginal decisions are the small choices that humans make that do not affect the grand scheme of their lives. And I therefore related this principle to these specific questions at hand. To begin with, taking shorter showers only affects the few minutes that this person dedicates to showering. It doesn't affect their whole entire lives in the grand scheme of things. And so it does not have consequences on the whole entire life of that specific person, and it's a subtle decision that is taken on a daily basis. This information could possibly support the idea that placing artworks on advertisements for events such as Fridays for Future or just above trash cans at school, for example, could influence people's reactions. So any small decisions that we are taking on a daily could possibly be shifted by seeing artworks such as the ones that I included in my survey. When it comes to the questions that proved a null hypothesis, culture, thinking at the margin, and the lack of resources in designated areas all come into play as to why people might have responded the way that they did. So according to the USDA Foreign Agricultural Services, the state of Jalisco is responsible for 12% of the production of cattle in Mexico, along with Veracruz, San Luis Potosí, Chiapas, and Sinaloa. It is responsible for 42% of its production within the country. Dishes such as carnes asadas, or grilled meat, and tacos de barbacoa, barbecue meat tacos, among various other fundamental dishes of the Mexican society, bring people together in general. And considering how deeply rooted meat is in the culture of Mexicans, the art shown in this specific survey did not have an effect that is significant enough to call a statistical difference between the two surveys. When it comes to the lack of designated resources in the area, bike lanes are an example of that. There are only around 3 bike lanes that cover Zapopan and do not run through most major roads in the city. So considering the fact that it is legal for teenagers to drive from the age of 16 in Mexico, and that the school where the survey was sent has a niche community of financially comfortable families, it is easier for the surveyors to just take a car to move around the city rather than the complication of finding a bike lane or a bus stop in time. So that survey, those artworks specifically did not change the way that they thought. In conclusion, these findings would need to be evaluated on other age groups and in different areas of the world to prove that art can actually change people's minds concerning the three questions that proved an alternative hypothesis. But these findings can be applied at our school and in our community, since small decisions can be altered. And that is always a good start to combating climate change. So like placing artworks on top of trash cans can be a start. And yeah, like maybe teachers can also include artworks in their classrooms just to get students familiarized with seeing these things and make them know that small changes can make a big difference at the end of the day. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, so that was great research and awesome paintings. So yeah, that last part brings me to question: in what ways can the ASFG community implement your research into their schools? Like, in what ways you would say?
I would say like the trash can sorting can be a start. Like placing such artworks literally above a trash can can like lead people to look at it and think like, oh, this is making a change, so let me actually take a moment and think about it. Even like elementary school teachers and middle school teachers, even high school, but I believe like this effect can be even stronger on like
Children.
I mean the whole community, but like if we frequent little kids, like middle school kids and elementary school kids with these artworks, we can get them to think more about the change that they're causing. So yeah, I mean there's various ways to implement this from now, and I would start with the trash can idea.
Okay. All right then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, you had a chance to see the video. I hope that you could hear it very well. Let me see if there's any questions. I know that we only have about 5 minutes. So Caleb, oh, I thought it was for Noor. Yep, Noor was there. Hopper was haha, and then Caleb Dallas got kicked out. Yep, Hopper. I wonder if the answers would differ based on age groups. High school students, although in different cohorts, are still close in terms of overall behavior patterns. Yeah, that's a good question. Are high school students more susceptible than adults? That's a fantastic question. Also, there was only a 20-minute break between the 2 art displays. Oh, that's true. And it maybe be far more frequent and consistent in terms of exposure to those artworks. Okay. And then Caleb says, I also wonder if her research would have significantly different results if she were able to reach a larger local sample size. And is it possible that the type of paintings for the Knoll group had less impact than the others? How would we determine that? I think these are fantastic questions that, yeah, I mean, I think that for me, it was an awesome place to start. It was like so cool to see the back research that she did and the way that she connected some of the questions that the kids said, no, I'm not going to change, like eating meat or, you know, riding a bike. And I liked how she found sort of the economic understanding of why at least this population is doing what they're doing. Does anybody want to take the mic and share some thinking? Everybody is fried, done. Well, certainly don't want to keep you all. I think it's awesome seeing your faces. I want to say happy Wednesday and just lead you to please fill out the Padlet, which is on that link. And just if you have a question or observation, we'd love to hear from you. I hope that your rest of your day goes well and take care. Oh, Yvette, do you have something? Oh, please share. I can't hear you. Still finding your button. Did you find it?
Steph, I think you can forcibly unmute her.
I can't in Meet. In Zoom you can, but in Meet I can't.
Oh.
Unfortunately. I know. No, it's just that little button. You want to type it? No. We'd love to hear from you. No. Okay. Well, I hate to stifle anybody.
I was gonna say, I wonder if our particular community, with the students being exposed to sustainability for so many consistent years, makes them more susceptible to perceiving these messages as actually being problems, and how effective that would be outside our community. Just because, like, if you speak about sustainability in classes at school, students immediately know what you're talking about. They immediately can name examples. Whether or not they believe it or not is another thing. You know, you do have some students that don't kind of buy into it as much as their other classmates, but I don't think it was so much of a stretch to get our students to consider global implications of some habits, because these changes that Noor talked about were changes that I heard as a kid in elementary school about, you know, conserving water, taking shorter showers, different things like that. And so that's part of the age group question that I had. It's like, you know, would this be as influential on some of their parents or people in other schools? Like, could this be replicated other ways? She ended her presentation by saying, maybe we could put posters up on, you know, the trash collection bins. And I feel like we do a pretty good job of consistently advertising sustainability. We have Black Girl Fridays, there's posters, there's artwork. So I don't know how effective more campaigning would be for our students. However, I think if we replicate what we do at other schools, that could be seriously effective.
Yvette, I see you found your mic.
Yeah, after I dropped the computer. No, I thought, you know, I love art, and I think it's a great idea just to have pictures, especially just to create conscious, not just our students, but everyone, all our community at ASFG. So in that sense, I think we still can work on that, you know, and the same with, you know, the meat eating, you know, like nobody, yeah, it's a cultural thing, but it could change, you know, if they see pictures that really how it impacts our earth. Maybe not everyone, but maybe some people would change. Okay.
I think it's a good point to bring it back to the art and how can we use art to affect those big changes and not the things that we've been trying for 20 years, like taking shorter showers, but the big ones where riding our bikes and, you know, eating less meat and things like that. And I'm very curious to see how we can keep pushing forward. And maybe the coronavirus will help us. Maybe that we all affect each other. Well, it could be a common ground. And how do we link art? Because I think art can be so powerful. Thank you. It's 4:01. I'm going to see you all later. Take care. Be safe and healthy and well. Bye. Oh, it's good to see you.